Yes.
On today's episode of the Outlet Podcast, we'll be discussing gamer news from the E3 and current developments within the United States regarding gay marriage and the Confederate flag going down. You are listening to the Outlet Podcast. Connect and recharge. Hello and welcome to the live edition of the Outlet Podcast, episode 7. I'm here at my pastor's house and we're having a good fellowship time. And let you know who's here. I got my pastor, Jose Luis Martinez, one of the youth members from the church, Joshua Contreras, and the president of the local church association with the youth, Jacob Contreras. What's up, guys? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah. So let me let you know how you guys can follow me. You can find me on Twitter at Outlet Podcast. On Facebook, you can find me www.facebook.com/The Outlet Podcast. On YouTube, guys, I've been updating my YouTube as much as possible. I've definitely tried. On YouTube, just search Outlet Podcast. You can send me a personal email if you're going through anything within your life, any problems, any situations that you might need advice. Come and let me know. Outletpodcast at yahoo.com. So definitely find me. Outletpodcast at yahoo.com. On my WordPress blog I've been updating. So find me on WordPress. Outletpodcast.wordpress.com. That's outletpodcast.wordpress.com. On Soundcloud, which is where I've been, I always upload my information. If you'd like to download the Soundcloud app, you can find all my information, the spark plugs. You can find, what else can you find? The spark plugs, you can find my misadventures, you can find the actual podcast episodes, you can find the acoustic sessions on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/outlet-podcast. So soundcloud.com/outlet/podcast.com. And on iTunes and Stitcher. If you guys have your Apple products, your iPhones, iPads, and your iMac, you can listen to me there on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio. Just search for Outlet Podcast, and boom, you guys, I'll be right there. Okay, without further ado, I'm just going to go straight into the gamer news segment. All right, so there's been big developments within gaming. There's a lot. E3 just ended up happening, so there's a lot going on in the PC and the console wars. And my friends Jacob and Joshua, we can talk about it. The first thing is one of the biggest things that we think, even though I'm a PS4 fan, Xbox, I believe they won. Would you guys agree?
I would say so, just because of the cross compatibility, the backwards compatibility between the games.
So, I mean, that's something that PlayStation, I don't know why that they didn't head into. I know the PS3, some people were able to mod it, and they were able to play backwards compatibility with the PS3.
They had on the PS3 store, they had a program or something that you could download for backwards compatibility. But when I did it, it didn't seem to work. I don't know if it's with certain games or a certain thing you have to do. I didn't do it right, but. If it's something that Xbox releases, it's something that it's going to work across multiple games.
It was definitely I remember everyone saying, "Oh, you got to get the first PlayStation 3, and then go and try to purchase the mod chip so that you can put it into the PS3, and then you can play your video games that way, your old PS2 games." And I'm surprised that PlayStation. Well, they're probably doing it for the money. What they're doing is they have the PlayStation Store, and you can rent a video game. Like, for example, I rented Metal Gear Solid 4, and I was able to play Metal Gear Solid 4, and the time frame was like 6 hours, 3 days, and like 5 weeks. So those were the increments that you couldn't. There's no options to own the game, which has really upset me because I would have loved to own the game, but the price to own a PS3 game would have been the price for a new game, $60, and that's like totally ridiculous.
That's how they get you. They make you start playing the game, so that way if you want it more, you got to keep renting it, and you got to keep renting it, and that's how they get their money.
And that's something that I just can't stand for. It really just upsets me with. But that's how the market is. So Xbox, one of the big things that they're coming out with is the Oculus. You know, Oculus, that was something like that was produced like 2 years ago or a year ago, and I know Facebook invested heavily into Oculus, but now Xbox Ones are being hooking up with the Oculus. And what is interesting is that there is a controller that is like an Xbox controller, but it's split in half. So you have one hand that's more directional, the other hand is more operational with the, what is it, X, Y,
Isn't that laser?
Huh?
That's because they have it, it's like a setup like a Wii remote, and you have the nunchuck and controller. But last time I heard the most known controller of that variation was made by Razer.
Oh, okay.
Because I think Razer was the only company when the original Oculus came out. Was one of the few companies that actually made compatible controllers made for Oculus games.
So, because you're a huge Minecraft dude. So, what is that? What is this whole next step in the next step in like 4-dimensional gaming? What does that mean to you?
Well, they announced at E3 that they were coming out with a new version of Minecraft that was specified for the HoloLens that Microsoft is producing. And what it is, it's not your traditional view of Minecraft as a first-person sandbox type of game, but it's more as an overhead view of your world, and you can alter and change your world from a bird's eye perspective. And using the HoloLens lets you present your Minecraft world onto any flat surface inside your house, so you can see a more 4-dimensional version of what you usually see on a 2-dimensional screen.
So my question is Minecraft going to be the staple that will carry this next generation of video gaming, like Sonic will or Mario Brothers?
Well, I feel Minecraft, it's probably the first video game to be compatible with the HoloLens, which will in turn open up the pathway to more games trying to get compatible with the HoloLens. But the problem is, Minecraft is in its own category of gaming, which is more acceptable to be formatted to the HoloLens. Whereas if you take something like Sonic and Mario Bros, that might be a little harder to actually create a new perspective that could be used with the HoloLens. Because with Minecraft, if you look down at your world, and that's kind of normal because it's for you to edit and for you to see your whole creation as a whole. Whereas Sonic is a more fast-paced, you have to see what's happening, which might in turn,
All right, so let's give Joshua a round of applause for this Minecraft segment. Seriously, I think, I hope so. I hope this new generation of gaming with the Oculus will be amazing. I mean, there have been games that have tried doing first person that have done amazing. One of the games that I've loved to play was Mirror's Edge. And I think a game like this, Mirror's Edge, crossing over, would be a great game to be on the Oculus. So, one of the games that everyone's excited for is Gears of War 4. I'm excited for the Gears of War 4 because the gameplay trailer is amazing. So you gotta go to YouTube and look up the gaming trailer. And look up. Oh, So yeah, definitely go look up the gameplay trailer. It's like about a guy. It's a guy and girl duo. It's an over-the-shoulder shooter. I'm not a huge fan, huh?
Third person.
The third person. I'm a third person guy, but I'm not that type of shooting over the shoulder. I'm more about the camera not being over, but being actually behind the character. I'm not familiar with that, shooting. I mean, that's something you get accustomed to. I think Uncharted was one of the games that definitely started that whole like over the shoulder instead of like lining it up straight. Now it's behind in a different way. So
and if you have Xbox for 360, they have on the start menu an Xbox One icon, and you can see all the exclusive information for Halo 5, and Gears of War 4, all the Xbox exclusives that are coming out for One. You can see them and their trailers on the dashboard of your Xbox.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. And what I love about the Gears of War, franchise is their close quarters combat, chainsaw machine gun. I love that. When I first saw it come out in the game, I was like, this is awesome. I mean, it was unbelievably bloody, but in my opinion, it beats the what is that? The laser sword in Halo? Energy sword? Is it? I don't know what it is, but the chainsaw gun is definitely, chainsaw rifle is definitely better.
Well, that's because it's two different outlooks on gaming. Halo's more of a sci-fi futuristic fantasy shooter, whereas Gears of War is post-apocalyptic, dystopian, trying to save the world type of shooter.
And with the new Halo 5 that's coming out, I was a Destiny. I fought for Destiny. I was a huge Destiny fan, but now I'm crossing over because recent developments with Destiny and these expansion packs, it's totally ridiculous. Like these days, you buy the game and it's like in the price of the expansion packs, even though it's like $40, you're looking at the game being 60 because I bought it brand new. $60 for the game, then $40 for the expansion pack, and it keeps on going with with all these DLCs, and I'm not that, like, are you that kind of a gamer? Do you guys DLC, or what do you do?
Well, it depends on what type of game you play. Like with GTA 5, they just came out with a new DLC, the Ill-Forgotten whatever pack.
Right.
But that's all online to further experience with the game. But if you're strictly there for the storyline, which is amazing in GTA 5, then it's up to you. Do you feel you got your money's worth with just the story?
Right.
Because online is always developing further, and all the DLCs that are included in online for GTA 5 are free. So that just adds on to, did you get your money's worth for the game? But that presses the question on, should you have to pay for the DLC once you paid all this money for the game itself?
Like, what do you think, Jacob?
I'm PS3, I game share.
Oh.
Easiest thing in the world. Battlefield 3, I got premium and everything for free for my friend.
I wish I could be a DLC person. I'm not about that life.
So
that's why, huh?
You love games like Last of Us.
Yeah, I love Last of Us. Metal Gear. I love games.
Simple games with good stories.
Yeah.
Metal Gear is not simple.
Metal Gear is not simple, but you need to, if you've invested the time and effort into it, like, ladies, am I right? See, the ladies love Metal Gear. The ladies love Solid Snake. So that's where I'm coming from. Where I get my money's worth is EA Sports games with your Madden, with your UFC.
Don't even get me started on EA.
So EA, yeah. Oh, well, okay, let's keep going then. So I'm really excited. I think Halo 5 Guardians,
Looks great.
I think Halo 5 makes totally takes care of Destiny. I think the multiplayer in Halo will be much more amazing.
If you guys haven't seen the online multiplayer for the Halo 5 trailer, that is, like, I died when I saw that. Because they're introducing a lot more aspects that weren't offered in all the other games, and it's a stepping stone for Halo.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I saw the trailer right, it's incorporating Battlefield aspects into it in the way that your environment is more susceptible to the user's abilities. Like you can change the environment. I may be wrong, but I feel if they did do that, then that was a good thing for them to do.
By the way it looks, I just get like I watched the gameplay trailer because I didn't get an invite to E3, but I'm not gonna let that hold that against them. Yeah, you guys, I'm sorry. They just didn't send me an invite. But yeah, to sum this up, I'm really excited about what Halo 5 can do, because originally when I first saw Halo, Halo 1, it was a party console game. Like, you would have LAN parties to play Halo, and that's what I loved. I was like, oh my gosh, this game, like, I would go to my cousin's house, and, you know, split screen, we'd be playing, and it was totally worth it. And in my opinion, like, they came out with all these movies, like, the middle area, I wasn't too impressed of the Halo saga. I wasn't, you know, but now I feel they definitely redeemed themselves with everything after Halo, you know, after ODST, yeah. I think they definitely redeemed themselves with that.
Well, yeah, I think 3 was a weak point for them. ODST was considered just an expanded DLC of 3. All ODST is the exact same storyline of 3. It's just happening from a different perspective at a different time in the war. Because you're not a Spartan, you're a soldier. A common soldier. And I think ODST gets a bad rap because they think it's just a few extra missions that they could have added into 3 itself. But then, I'm sorry, I don't care what you guys say. Halo,
I don't care what you guys say.
Halo Reach is probably the pinnacle of the Halo saga so far.
Right. So, alright, you guys. So, there's some other games that definitely came out that I'm excited for. Hitman, and so maybe I'll hit those up on the next, like on a previous episode. Hitman, Final Fantasy, the remastered. They're going to be remastering Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Kingdom Hearts 3. So many people have waited. I saw an online meme about, like, it was like an 8-year-old, and then it has Kingdom Hearts 1, and then there's like a 20-something-year-old with Kingdom Hearts 2, and then there's like this 80-year-old guy with Kingdom Hearts 3. I think we've waited a long time, and the problem is that if you love Kingdom Hearts, you're going to follow it. If you love it, and Disney is going to magic up. You got Disney money backing that game, so it's going to be amazing as far as story content goes. We'll just hope that that it comes out with a good look. So yeah, right now we're gonna end this segment, and I want to get into some current events. First, we're gonna start off with the banning of the Confederate flag. All right, so you guys, there's a lot of news we got to talk about, and so one of the major things that has happened here in America, well, there was a shooting of 9 individuals, 9 Christians in African Methodist, what was it, AME Church over in South Carolina, and like you guys. I followed the story. I've listened in, but I'm totally shocked. I heard about this kid who I don't want to mention. I don't want to venerate someone like this. I mean, he was possibly really disturbed in what he was going on through with his life. But he sat in for a lot of the sermon. I heard he sat in for like 30 minutes or like an hour listening, and he said that the people in the church were so nice. And all of a sudden, he starts shooting up this church. Now, I mean, they caught him, and he's going to be standing trial. But I wanted to get my pastor. I wanted my pastor to talk in. And so, Pastor Martinez, right now we're talking about the shooting that happened in the South Carolina church. As a pastor, what are some things that you're concerned with visitors coming in church?
He's concerned about the church because we know there's something going to happen later about that. So we're trying to pray about that to see how the people act when this happens. We know that God has to do something about it.
We can't. The Christian church has never turned anybody away. What people don't understand who are living different lifestyles, like homosexual lifestyles or transgender, if you come to church, you will be allowed to come and participate. However, you won't be considered a member, right?
Right.
To be a member of a church, what are some different? What are some things as a pastor you look for someone who wants to be a member?
Well, when the people come to the church and they want to accept Jesus in their heart, then we start to teaching those people, and then we try to be a member of the church. That means it's a rules of the church. They have to obey whatever we teach them about Jesus in church.
Definitely. Yeah, so there's a giant misconception, and if you're listening, you know how I've prepared this podcast to be. I don't want you guys to... I want you guys to listen, even if you might not be a Christian. I just want you to listen to understand how we are as a people. We are not a hate-filled people. We do tolerate a lot, but we don't accept certain ways of living.
We are trying to teach the people by the Bible.
Amen. Yeah.
No hate, no anger. So we try to do is to put the people in the right track by the Bible.
Definitely.
When the people obey the Bible, then the people change.
Yeah.
And they gotta be a better citizen. They gotta be a better Christian, better father, better mother, better son. That's what we try to do about the church.
So, Pastor, how do you feel within your heart when from reports that have come from that church, this young white male, he comes into this African American church and he listened for like an hour, and he said that people were so kind to him. How does that make you feel about someone who comes in and has that opportunity to really experience Jesus?
Well, when the guy goes inside and he starts to look, he's watching the people in the church.
Right.
But he's not interested in what the Bible says. So he's interested in what he's going to do with the people. That's what the difference is when you go to church and you want to do something in the church. You look for that, and then you try to do something. With this guy, they don't care what is going to happen in church by the Bible way. He tried to do whatever he thinks in his heart.
Right. So like Jacob, so this is like, I mean, this is synonymous with somebody who just who goes to a gym and whose intention is to not work out. I don't understand. Like, what do you think about that? Like this person who he goes to this church and his intention is something other than being saved or something other than receiving hope. Like, what do you think?
Well, like the pastor was saying, you have to go in with the intention of wanting to learn, of wanting to, hear the word of God be spoken.
Right.
But he was going in with these malice intents, these bad intents. He was there Because if you go barging in, just shooting right away, it'll set some people off. But if you go in quiet and calm and you start listening to them, they get more loose, more comfortable around you because of how you're acting.
Right.
So that's why it just hurt me so much that he was actually sitting there with them listening, because you may not be paying attention and wanting to do it,
Right.
but you're still hearing the words being spoken. It's going to go in. You may not be absorbing it completely, but you're still hearing the words, of God. You're hearing the Bible being spoken to you, and just the fact that it just kind of went in one ear and out the other, it just really kind of upset me.
I can't believe it. Me, Joshua, and Jacob, we're all three were musicians at the church, and we see people come in, and unlike when you're sitting in a church, you're normally facing the altar, and you're kind of coming from this one perspective. But musicians, and just like my pastor here, all of us, we're standing in the front, so we see, we see people if they're tired, we see them yawning, we see their way they're acting. So I can't imagine somebody, seeing somebody like that, and it just breaks my heart, because I know that the word that we're preaching is a word of life, and it's a word of truth, and for someone to just not even be in that same realm, to accept or just to listen, you don't have to accept what we're preaching, what the Bible preaches. You don't have to, but if you listen, you'll hear some great stuff. So, yeah. Yeah,
if you look in, I'm getting a little more into it, but if you look in Proverbs and stuff like that, these are just words of wisdom. They may not necessarily be pertaining, Jesus' life and all this stuff, that you usually associate. But there's a lot of stuff in the Bible that are simple wisdoms, things to live by,
Honor thy father and mother.
Exactly. Naturally, you're going to want to respect your parents. It's a thing, you kind of just brought up that way, hopefully.
Yeah, what I've noticed, sorry to interrupt, but what I've noticed is that, simple things in the Bible, let's take that, honor thy father and mother. These days, there are men and women who have been divorced 3 or 4 times, and these poor kids are being brought into the world with so much complication, rather than it being simply honor mommy and daddy. Now I gotta honor mommy and the stranger and stepdad. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So we make things so much more difficult.
And another thing, do unto others as you would have unto yourself. We all try to live by that. Whether you're atheist or Buddhist, you want to live through that.
Go ahead.
You want to live by that, and that was something said in the Bible. But people don't want to recognize that was words from the Word of God.
Yeah.
And the second you're like, that's in the Bible. No, it's not. They start fighting you right away. It's just an old saying, whatever. But that came from the Bible, and that's something we have to realize, that just hearing the Word of God can transform your life.
We, as an American and as a Christian, I recognize the fact that this country was heavily Christian for many, many years. We were heavily a Christian nation. In recent events, things have changed, and I'm not saying that they're not fair. I definitely believe that this country, the people have a right to choose. Now, the rights that they have to choose, whatever it is that they want, let them choose. And that's not going to inflict on Christianity. If the people of this nation choose a certain thing, then at least it's the people choosing, and it's not a government imposing. So I'm still happy with I'm still happy with that in that regard. One of the next things I want to talk about is a result of this action of this young man going and shooting 9 in the church. President Obama, he gave a eulogy speech to the pastor, which is something that I appreciate, and I assume that he'll do for other faiths, because I think this president I think he's amazing. I think he's worked real hard, He's tried to be fair in an unfair time. He's tried to be just in a corrupt time. Like, to be able to try to lead a populace is very difficult. So I give him a lot of, I venerate him, I applaud him for that, because no one's going to fix what's going on entirely. So one of the results that have come about is the issue with the Confederate flag it's the issue of the Confederate flag in government buildings. So, yeah, so I'm reading from Yahoo News right now, an article entitled "What does the Confederate flag mean?" If you guys want to look it up, it's on Yahoo. Then just type in "What does the Confederate flag mean?" It'll probably show you up to the website or to the page. So, in wake of the Charleston church shootings that killed 9, a long simmering debate over public displays of the Confederate battle flag has boiled over in the South. So, lawmakers are listening and taking action, including many who have in the past supported the flag as a symbol of the South's history. So, what this is one of the issues is the heritage versus hate debate that has been long time, ever since African Americans and minorities have had rights, have been given their civil rights. But one of the recent debates is whether the states have the right to do as they please. In this regard, it's different. Like the Civil War was based on like slaveholders still trying to hold on to their way of life when there were no more slaves.
Let me input something.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that Civil War was over slavery. It wasn't about slavery. It was, at least not specifically. It was more for.
There was a lot entailing.
It was like a background sort of reason, but the really upfront thing about it was states' rights. That's why they wanted to secede, because the South felt like the government was getting too strong, too powerful, and they were trying to take away and change their way of life. They were forcing them to do something.
Right. But Joshua, that's kind of a fair that's kind of a fair. That's a fair argument to have, right? That the states do have the rights. Like, there's a federal government and there are states government. So, okay, yeah, the states have the rights. However, this becomes, there's more involved. Yeah.
I saw this.
No, go ahead.
I saw this news broadcast talking about a statue that they have somewhere in a park in Florida, talking about how the statue it shows the Confederate flag on it.
Right.
And they interviewed this guy, and he said, yes, it is a part of history, but it's a part of dark history.
Yeah.
And yeah, it should be represented, and they shouldn't just like ban it everywhere, but it should be represented in a museum, not a park.
That's where I disagree, though, because we have World War II memorials, Vietnam. Those were millions and millions of people killed. Vietnam was a dark time. World War II, World War I was a dark time. So why is it that we can have those memoriams and stuff like that, but we can't display, something that also is part of our history? And before some people stating things, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. I'm trying to just state the facts and what I think should happen.
Right. And I respect that opinion. I think this becomes more personal because it's as Americans, our dirty laundry is out there in the open, and the Civil War is dirty laundry because in between ourselves we can talk about that because it's between a brother and a brother, but what it implies on the national level, it's totally it affects us and it affects our image, and yeah, well, it's fine. So it definitely affects how we're represented. A lot of people, I consider that era a little ashamed.
That's why it's like you said, it's dirty laundry. It's embarrassment. Like Jacob says, we have World War II, and World War I, Vietnam memorials and all that in public, because we're not ashamed of the outcomes of that war.
Right.
But when it comes to the Civil War, that was between Americans and Americans.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of blemish on the pride America has in the confidence of the nation. It's something that shouldn't be publicly shown because they feel it's an embarrassment to themselves, so they don't want it to be broadcasted across public people.
I mean, we're a young nation, and we've accomplished a lot. And that's something that I think the world admires America about. We've gone through a lot, and we've come out very victorious. A lot of the accomplishments, accomplishments of flight, accomplishments of our automobiles, of a lot of our technology is due to our culture, the adverse situations that we found, and the ways we've developed and we've responded. America, we're a country of people who respond to certain actions. That's why we lead. We try to. People say that we're the policemen of the world, and yeah, we are. It's not out of an area of malice. I believe it's an area out of sincere care that we have for other nations. That's why we're trying to be involved in Cuba, in what's going on in the Middle East, because it's the people that are suffering, and we're a democratic republic. So we kind of get we all get a say in how we live and how we choose to live.
And I agree with, trying to help people and everything. It's just sometimes I feel personally we may go about it the wrong way, trying to force and impose our democracy, our styles of living, our ways, even fast food and shopping, all these things, McDonald's you see everywhere. I feel sometimes that it's kind of smothering the world and trying to subdue the cultures of the people that live there.
Well, there's another thing. That's the manifest destiny of America. The settlers, when they came here to when the settlers came here in Plymouth Rock, and then they started to expand. One of the reasons why they chose to expand here towards the west was manifest destiny. It was God's will for us to keep going west and to claim this territory. Now, I don't believe that it was God's will for that, because you can't say God wants this and God wants that just because that's what you want and you want to enforce your argument. Because look at what we did to the Native Americans.
Exactly.
So it's not that we're, as Americans, we're trying to impose. I don't know. I think it's a time. I think it's a renaissance that we have, that a lot of nations have had, like France, like England. They've gone through an enlightenment period, and as Americans, we've reached this a type of enlightenment where the people should be, that we feel people should be, should have the right and the say. Now, there are some kingdoms, there are some kingships, maybe in Spain, I don't know. I don't know how maybe how your nation governs, that do well. You got, I don't know, like who has England has a prime minister and they have their queen. Canada, I believe they have a prime minister as well. If I'm wrong, and you're listening from another part of the world, let me know. www.facebook.com/outletpodcast, at Twitter @outletpodcast.com. Sorry, dang you guys, I messed that up totally. Yeah, I deserve that, guys. So definitely let me know at Outlet Podcast on Twitter how your nation governs. But, there could be kingships that do well. There could be, we're looking at one over in North Korea with Kim Jong-un, and we know what he's doing. And it's deplorable. And you might be able to argue devil's advocate, but look of whom you're being the advocate for, the devil. You're trying to make the best out of a bad situation. And when people are suffering, we don't agree. So, going back, this is all talking about the Confederate flag, and we're talking about the conflict in between differing opinions. So when I look at the heritage versus hate debate, there's so much more evidence of hate than there is of heritage. And we're speaking as Hispanics. I mean, Joshua, when you're in school, do you see the Confederate flag often? I mean,
No.
so, all right. So definitely, that's Joshua's. He gets the crickets for that. No, when I was in high school, I remember seeing a lot of the camo, and I was like, all right, whatever, camo. Then I see the rebel flag, the Confederate flag, the flag of the Confederacy, and I don't judge people, but when you see things that are of representation, yeah, like the Nazi. I can't help but like when I see the rebel flag, it comes to mind white supremacists, and then white supremacist history of associating themselves with Nazi icons. Yes, yeah.
To compare what's going on with the Confederate flag, it's the same in Germany when like if someone's carrying the flag of a Nazi or the Nazi group, they can say
Nazi regime.
The Socialist Party.
They can say, oh, I carry it because it's part of our heritage and to honor those that fought for our country. Yet in Germany, it's illegal to represent the Nazi regime and have their flag.
So, what you're saying, I mean, the populace there, I mean, even the government have stepped in to say, this is something that we won't support, and it is a national, it brings shame to our nation. It's a blemish. And so, here we have that as Christian, as Americans, we have things that we're ashamed of within ourselves. And other nations have it too, that we're not proud of all these our infighting. So if a nation decides no, then why do you think that your opinion of an icon, why do you think that's so much more valid? You know, the Confederate flag, you can't argue how it's been represented because we've seen it. There are videos of whites and blacks standing up for civil rights, and they're getting, chased by dogs. They're being lynched by, a bunch of groups. Yeah, go ahead.
To go off of what he was saying about the Nazi flag, I don't know too much. I just heard that now from him. But when they first outlawed it, I would assume that there were some people, maybe not too many, that were upset over it. Maybe they supported it. Who knows? I don't know when it happened or anything like that. But I think that if we were to outlaw the Confederate flag, I think that it would upset people at first, of course. But I do think that over time, people will realize the history behind it and might accept it. I'm not, it's just my opinion that I think over time it will eventually go away.
Yeah.
Get over it.
I don't want it to be like that, dude. I mean, listen. If you're a white person, and you're from the South, I'm not going to discredit your lifestyle. That's not what we're trying to do. The way you live, you're John Deere mudding. What else? Like this stuff.
Shooting.
We're not Duck Dynasty. Listen, I mean, we're doing stereotypes. We're talking about stereotypes right now, but we're not here to like discredit you or say or disparage your heritage or how you live. No, it's just you can't associate yourself with something like that, even though you've been associated with it for a long time. It's not that it's not a good look, but it's just it speaks less of you. It speaks less of, you know, I have the privilege, and and I'll say it like this: I had the privilege to drive to Atlanta. I had the privilege to go to Tennessee for my honeymoon. Everybody, ladies, I'm sorry, I'm taken. I can't. No, but I've gone to Tennessee. I've gone to Atlanta, Georgia. You know, I've driven through South Carolina and North Carolina. I've gone through Mississippi, Alabama. I've gone to New Orleans. So, you guys, when I say that the South is beautiful, the South is unbelievably beautiful. The history of the South is one of the richest ones in the world. Some of the best food in the world is from our portion of America, the South. You know, I've said it before. I try not to tell you where I lived, but I'm from Orlando. I know what it's. I've seen the South in all its richness, and man, let me tell you, it's amazing. The South is beautiful. So just don't let this flag and what happened dishearten you, because the South is amazing. So don't let that speak ill of you. All right, you guys. So that has been the Outlet Podcast, the live episode of episode 7. You guys contact me, please, on Twitter @Outlet Podcast, on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Outlet Podcast, on YouTube. I've been updating, and we're going to be featuring an air drumming segment. If you guys don't know what air drumming is, I recommend that you go to YouTube and check it out. But we're going to be doing an air drumming segment, recording, and that's going to be featured on YouTube, and the links are going to pop up on my other media, on Twitter @outletpodcast.com, or @outletpodcast on Twitter, on Facebook.com /Outlet Podcast. On YouTube, just type in Outlet Podcast to search for it. On my email, if you have a segment that you'd like for us to talk about, if there is something that's going on in your life that you need some advice, we'll talk about it anonymously, and I'll put you as an anonymous, and then we'll discuss it. Or if you have any suggestions or comments, you can email them to me at outletpodcast@yahoo.com. My WordPress blog, outletpodcast.wordpress.com. On Soundcloud, where you can listen to this podcast, soundcloud.com/outlet-podcast. And on iTunes and Stitcher. You can find me. All you gotta do is just search Outlet Podcast, and everything is uploading there on iTunes and Stitcher. You guys, this has been a live episode, so that's why there's a lot of background noise. But
bunch of Hispanics.
Yeah, this is what Hispanics do when Hispanics get together on a Saturday afternoon. This is what goes down, everybody. So. Yeah, we just hope that you've been comfortable with that. So you've been listening to the Outlet Podcast. Connect and recharge.